as we headed out of the 2023 season. It was a disappointing Sharks exit. And so I thought it would be time for us to call upon our resident historian to give us a bit of a rundown on some of the just heartbreaking Sharks finals exits. And this is going to be a history lesson with Matthew Williams. Look, you've even got your own slide background there, Matthew.
Thanks, mate. Looks like I'm in witness protection with that positioning. But anyway.
We're going to try and line this up. Right, over to you, Matthew.
Thanks, David. So just as a quick summary or quick intro for this segment, we're going to do a bit of a history corner each week where I take us down memory lane, usually with a classic match from the team that we're playing against the following week. So here we go. I'll get the teleprompter ready. This is a big one and will be bigger than normal, but let's rip in. So as I said, when I first pitched this history segment, I expected it to be an uplifting part of the show involving a who's who of classic old wins with references to mediocre legends and obscure moments that most thought would never be heard of again. Think classic wins over the Dragons in 2003, things like that. Here we are, week one, and we're already into horrible histories, truly Conullified. Although it wouldn't be Cronulla without this rich history of desire, defeat, and despair. Join me on this trip down memory lane, or is it nightmare lane? Thank the Lord David Peachy for 2016, because I don't think any of us would cope otherwise. So here's the equation. Top 3 Sharks finals capitulations. Across 53 games, and I'll let you cue them as bring them up, David. We've had 4 grand finals. We've had 1 drawn grand final. We've had 1 grand final replay. We've had 20 wins, and that includes a playoff against the Broncos. So technically not a final, a playoff to get into 5th spot. 32 losses, a 37% win record, and 1 heartbroken fan base. Well, I don't know about heartbroken. We were up until 2016. Now we're just, I don't know, reflecting.
Except for that one time.
Except for that one time. Thank goodness for that. Anywho, so that's a rich library to choose from. It'd be easy to go the most painful like 99, 01 or 02, but that would do an injustice to this stellar field of heartbreak and horrificness. So I had to set up some rules. Capitulate definition. Here we go. To cease to resist to an opponent or an unwelcome demand. So that's a specific criteria there. And I'll set up some rules so that we can whittle down which ones fit that category. There are plenty of types of Sharks final losses, and here's the breakdown. So number 1, the what if missed opportunity years. 1995, 2000, 2013, 2017, 2018, 2023. They're the ones where we thought we'd just get past that week and who knows what would happen, but we bowed out. Number 2, the insipid performances where we performed poorly against not the best opposition, 2012, 2017, 2019, 2023. Notice how some of these overlap. Now to the next one. The brave underdogs that took it to their much more fancied opponents but lost, 2000, 2005, 2020. Number 4, the complete annihilations where we had such high hopes that a ball was kicked and we were never in it, 1996, 2008, 2015. You all know those.
Oh, 2008. That just was horrible.
And admittedly, they were also nil. Number 5, the ultimate heartbreaks, 1988, 1999, 2001, 2002, and very nearly 2016. Anyway, so
I don't know. 2016, if we'd have lost that, had been on its own level.
It'd be its own level. I don't think I'd be here. Anyway, let's go.
All right.
Next slide. So here are my rules to ensure the ultimate top 3 Sharks finals capitulations are decided in a rational way. Number 1, we must have had a great lead and had a great start, led and given up that lead. Number 2, we must have had a red hot side capable of anything in the following week or weeks. And number 3, we must have been eliminated by that match. Here we go. Drum roll, please. Number 3.
Hold on.
Number 3, 1995 semi-finals, week 2. Cronulla Sharks 18, Newcastle Knights 19. We'll quickly touch on the week before here. Week 1 of the finals was us in the 4v1 match in the old top 8 system against the minor premiers Manly, leading 20 points to 8 early in the second half. This team comprising the foundations of the legendary Lang era 90s Shark side, including a lot of talent from the 1994 President's Cup and reserve grade premiership winning teams, were run down by Manly 24-20. The lead was given up in the 72nd minute of that game. Off to the semi-finals this week, Cronulla showed similar early quality and played from in front. Early 12-0 lead was formed through tries to Rogers, Matty Rogers, the great winger that he was, and the late, great Paul Green. The first, a great long-range try involving Welshman Alan Bateman linking with ET before Matt Rogers covered the final 40 metres to score next to the post. The second involving a funny bounce from an Aaron Raper kick, which saw Green scoot to the left corner. Newcastle hit back just before halftime through Adam Muir, picking up the scraps from a bomb. 12-6 at halftime, and the first half we displayed excellent goal line defence with Newcastle also dominating possession, having 55% of it and a lot of sets on our line. Early in the second half, Jeff Bell linked with Green to make it 18-6. Then the heartbreak.
Oh, goodness. We were 12 up.
Here we were. A second try to Muir midway through the second half through some poor defence. Then a try to a young Robbie Ross following an error with ET trying to collect an awkward grubber. Made it 18 all in the 66th minute. Matty Johns popped a field goal from close range in the 74th. Shortly afterwards, the Sharks marched downfield in response, and a Mitch Healy grubber from dummy half on the try line with a huge overlap to the left barely went dead as Ben Samet chased in vain. It was shadowed over the dead ball line by Andrew Johns. The Sharks had one further use of the football in an attempt to send it to extra time. Ben Samet took a shot from 30 metres out off on the right after Healy and
really
Green
wide.
had their attempts rushed, and it went just wide of the posts. It had the distance, it just missed. So unfortunately, that was that. And straight sets, finished fourth. Similar to 2022, really, out and opportunity
and
loss.
Gone. I remember watching that at Matt Bruce's house and just thinking, oh, yeah, we're winning this. Done. All right, that's that one. All right, on to the next, number 2.
On to the next one. 2000 quarterfinal, Broncos 34, Sharks 20, ANZ Stadium, Brisbane. Broncos first v Sharks 8th. As a review of that season, backing up the minor premiership year of 1999 with largely the same squad, with the only change being the inclusion of Chris Beattie. The Sharks had an inconsistent year, plagued by injury, and as somewhat of an opposite to the Sharks of recent history, the Sharks beat every other top 8 opponent that year except for Penrith and Brisbane, with the Brisbane loss involving a last-minute try to lose at home early in the year. After with 1 minute to go, all we needed to do was wrap the ball up. We lost it. Wendell Sailor went in and, so we gave that one up. So we could have beaten 7 of the top 8 teams if we'd wrapped that one up. We beat Melbourne, we beat Parramatta, we beat Newcastle, we beat Canberra, we beat the Roosters. So we had a good form and we lost to a lot of lowly opposition. So we struggled for consistency, came to the finals off a 44-6 loss to Penrith the week after the legendary farewell Andrew Eddingshausen and Mitch Healy day, where we beat Parramatta 34-18, with Matty Rogers scoring a hat-trick and Mitch Healy unfortunately copying a 3-week ban after there was something to do with his elbow and David Penner's head. As for the match, Paul Mellor in jersey 18 replaced ET, with ET having not played since doing his neck against the Warriors early in the year. He opened the score in the 13th minute from a Jason Ferris bomb and a Matt Rogers bat down. Next set, David Peachey shaped a kick and in classic Peachey form stepped and weaved for 40 metres before linking up with Ferris in support, giving Dykes room to score out wide, making it 10-0 after 16 minutes. Shortly afterwards, Shannon Donato buried over from dummy half to make it 14-0. It was a rare match at starting hooker for him. In addition to their attack, the Sharks stood up and held their line in defence. And after 30 minutes, Cronulla had only missed 1 tackle. Gordon Tallis pulled a try back for the Broncos to make it 14-6 after 34. Then the whip it good. Brett Howland in his final game for the club raced away after a Russell Richardson break to make it 20-6 right on halftime, sending Sharks fans into dreamland. Then the second half happened. The Sharks mishandled the kickoff. Tallis scored his second from the second of the game from that set after the dropout. Ben Eichen scored shortly afterwards in the 49th minute to bring it back to 20-18. Then the iconic moment you've all been waiting for happened in the 57th. I'd love to get the Ray Warren commentary, but we'll do that later. The Sharks marched downfield after a great break by Dykes from a Miller offload before giving it to Shannon Donato, who was tackled 12 metres out on the last. What followed is Conullified Personified. The ball passed through 8 sets of hands with grit and enterprising razzle-dazzle combined. Dykes to Peachey, best. Dykes again across the field, linking with the Peachey again on the angle, who offload out the back whilst being tackled, scooped up by Martin Lang, who got it onto Andrew Pearce with the probably his second pass of his career, who basketball passed it back inside to Russell Richardson, who wrapped around the back, sprinted and weaved down the left, beating 2 tackles, including a forlorn Wendell Sailor. And with the line wide open, all he had to do was fall over. He
dropped it.
The ball.
Jesus.
Sharks never recovered.
Such a turning point, that one. I felt like I remember watching that and thinking, we win if he scores.
I feel sorry for Russell. I love him. He
He was such a
by
good player too, wasn't he?
He was dynamic. He was elusive. He was great. And that was an injustice to his career because he had a few drop balls in his time. 3 more Broncos tries to Icon again, Berrigan and Takiri made it finish 34-20. It was a bit of an odd season. The match was in August. The Olympics were that year. The season had started in February. The Andrew Eddingshausen era was over with a grand total of 0 premierships. It was the end of an era, and it was disappointing. We had that game. We had the eventual premiers on toast at 20-6 at halftime.
All right, that was number 2 on the worst Sharks finals, because that was certainly memorable. And people in the comments, if you can remember other games that you think are tragic Sharks capitulations, by all means do get them in there. And look, I am reasonably confident that I know what number 1 is, but we will fire that up, I guess. Yeah. We have to relive through this. I guess
by all means, things will get more uplifting, but we're kicking this off with a real downer, aren't we? So 1999 preliminary final, everyone's favourite year right up to the final 40 minutes. We were partying like it was 1999. And then the second half happened. Sharks 8, Dragons 24. You all know the story. Minor premiers, bright, sunny September afternoon at Stadium Australia. Destiny, then despair against a team with an unlimited salary cap. For the youngins, lift this rock up and go watch the replay online. I certainly couldn't. My 11-year-old self is still crying, but it's an education on true heartbreak. Truly traumatic. I certainly couldn't address it at all. I know Lats, in previous discussions, you've watched it fairly recently. I watched the other 2 games, which were fairly cathartic. Actually, it was great seeing what teams we had and the dynamic play they had, and good seeing 90s football again. No ruck interference. It was good fun, but this one I can't bring myself to watch, and I don't think I will. We had 1,000 chances in the first half, scored 1, which was admittedly a little bit dubious potential obstruction there for Peachy. We took the 2.
Should we have taken the 2?
I don't know.
I think we should have.
It wouldn't have. I don't know. It's hindsight's a wonderful thing. We copped a few injuries, and Paul Matt Rogers was one of the main ones there. And obviously, Anthony Mundy ran right in the second half. The only consolation being his missed overlap the following week and seeing Melbourne put the Dragons to the sword there. But I
remember the Sharks being down 12-8 in that game and thinking that they should have taken the 2 with 15 or 20 minutes to go, just to get it back to being 2 points. Because I remember we were kind of on the attack, and then they didn't score off that penalty, and then kind of failed. Look, I know the story Franco is going to tell about being at the barbecue and going away and cooking the barbecue and then coming back, and then we're out. So are you going to make you relive that, Franco, or you want to tell that story and relive that pain?
No, I don't want to relive that, but you basically told the story in a nutshell. I was so sure we were going to win. I was beers on ice, sausages on the barbie. Out. I don't need to watch this game. We're good. We're in front. Let's go.
So good, the 1991 team. That's so good. How good was the Peach? Not as good as Ben Barber from 2016, but very good.
Well, we'll discuss that another time. But Peachy was in that 2000 game against Brisbane, actually. I mean, 99, it was his best year, I reckon. But that 2000 game against Brisbane, especially the first half, he was flawless. He was, in my mind, the best fullback in the world, better than that Darren Lockyer guy. And he was showing it. He was awesome. If you're going to put a soccer spin on it, Joga Benito, that was him in rugby league form. He was just magic.
He was elite. All right. Well, look, we're going to give you guys 2 extra ones here on the ET stand, 2 extra finals capitulations. The first one being the 1989 Sharks, which often don't get spoken about. So the 1989 Sharks were minor premiers the year before and were out in straight sets with defeats against the Bulldogs and then the Balmain Tigers, and then actually finished equal 5th with the rather famous match, which gets replayed a lot, the match against the Broncos, which was a kind of 5th win and you're in style match that was played midweek, which the Sharks disposed of the Wally Lewis-led Brisbane Broncos at the time, and then bombed out to the, unfortunately, the Canberra Raiders. And why that was just so heartbreaking was that actually that Sharks team, back to you up to Matty's kind of brief, was they had so much potential. And so they had, Barry Russell floating around, but he was injured. And they had just so many great players in that team. And that Canberra Raiders team, if we could have gotten past them, I think the Sharks could have gone on a run and actually won that. And who knows what could have happened. And maybe we would have been in the greatest grand final of all time. That's number 4 on the list. And then an extra one that we've got for you is, I wasn't actually alive when this one happened, but this is actually startling, this one. So the Sharks in 1979 had been grand finalists the year before. They had been drawn grand finalists the year before. And then in the mid-season cup, they actually won it and won our first piece of silverware, which we always got teased about. What's that? Steve Rogers and Craig Pearce there holding up the trophy. And then the Sharks waltz into the finals. We finished in third place. And yep, Conullified, personified, you're out in straight sets, straight again, 2 losses, gone. All these good players, Australian captain, Steve Rogers, all these other guys just out. It's just classic damn Sharks, really. So, yeah, if there's any other Sharks finals, just annoying capitulations that you think we missed, get them into the comments. But, yeah, that was those. Good job on the history lesson, Matthew. I enjoyed that, even though it was terrible.
Thanks, mate. I'm glad we did it. I was trying to pitch to you when you gave me this idea that we should cover our last finals win, which was the 2019 game against Penrith, where we almost threw it in the second half, or our last home win, which was against the Raiders in 2008, that ill-fated year. But I remember you saying, too, that you hosted the Sharks after the 2000, or they were kicked out in 2000.
I did host the Sharks after the 2000 match. We was working at Carmen's at the time, and... yeah, we kept Carmen's open for all the Sharks players to come along, and I remember how disappointed they were. And what really actually stood out for me was how regal and just dignified Andrew Eddinghausen was amongst that group, and what was clearly a very disappointed moment. He did tell us that he thinks he was expecting to be able to play the next week, which was just an absolute bummer. So, look, sorry, I missed the final slide on your presentation. It said, well, don't worry, Sharks fans, because we will always have 2016. There was no capitulation there. Thank you for that history lesson, Matthew. That was terrific.